Sometimes in the summer months, we get so busy and caught up with events after events and activities that sometimes we need to just sit back, relax, and recharge. And that's why today we're doing some Studio 10 Zen. We're joined by Sierra Hines, a yoga instructor who's going to talk about the benefits of yoga for our body and our mind. How are you feeling this afternoon?
I'm doing very well.
Oh, I'm very excited to be sitting with you. The moment I stepped up here, I felt the Zen in the room, from the aroma, from just the space and how you guys have curated Firefly Studio. But Sierra,
yes,
you are a yoga instructor. Tell us, what was your first introduction to yoga?
My first introduction to yoga was my mom. She dragged me along to a class. It was a Groupon offering at a local studio around here, and we did the class, and it just stuck ever since.
Yeah. What about the class kind of stuck out to you?
Well, it was very difficult, extremely difficult. And my first impression was, oh, it's yoga, it can't be that hard.
Right.
It was difficult, so that was something that was challenging for me that I wanted to keep going with, and here I am 12 years later.
12 years later, my
Yes.
goodness. And that's awesome that even though it was a challenge, it was something that you wanted to take on, to the point that you went from just being a class attendee to now you're an instructor.
Yes.
So what kind of made that switch for you and made you say, hey, now I feel like I'm ready to teach other people how to engage in this?
I felt really good in my own practice that it just seemed naturally like the next step to also share this with other people. So that's how I started my yoga teacher training journey. I completed that in 2017, and I love it.
That's awesome. So talk to us about yoga. What is it like when you step into a class, for those of us who have never taken it before?
Yoga is it connects everything. So it connects mind, body, and spirit. It all depends on your journey, where you're at in life. We have different class offerings, so depending on what you want. If you want to speed it up a little bit, be a little more energized, there's those classes. If you want to dial it back, slow down, and just kind of zen and chill out, you know, it's just all really dependent on what you're looking for.
That's great. So there's different types of classes that we can all engage in. So talk to us about some of those different classes that we can take, actually, if we were to come here.
Yeah, so we offer many different classes here at Firefly from all the different yoga styles. So there's a gentle flow yoga, there's a power vinyasa, hip hop yoga on Tuesdays. There's also bar classes, so that's a combination of Pilates, yoga, and ballet. There's aerial classes, so there's many different offerings for any types of bodies or curiosities.
And something else that you also mentioned, Sierra, was that yoga is great for the mind, the body, and the spirit. Can you talk about, for you, in your experience, how was it helpful for your body and your mind and spirit as well?
Yeah, yoga is definitely one of those practices where you get to learn a lot more about your body than you had before. It's a practice, so it's not a competitive athletic sport where there's a goal in mind. Yoga, it's just mentally too. What you do on the mat, you kind of practice that off your mat in your everyday life. So that's the biggest takeaway for me, is just listening to my body a lot more, because it will speak to you. It does talk, especially when you get older.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something I was going to say. I find a lot of people say, you know, your body can detect illness sometimes before a doctor can.
Yeah.
And so doing yoga can kind of help connect you with that, so you can kind of figure out what it is that you need. And you just talked about all those different kinds of classes that we can have here as well. Now, some of your students, when they walk in, what are some of the things that they say before they take the class?
So my regulars that I have in my classes, they just look at me, and some of them will shake their head like, oh, what is she up to today?
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna kill me? And I'm like, no. Like, it really is just up to my interpretation, like what I'm feeling that day, my vibe, my mood. So I want to reflect that to my students as well. And you know, some come in with bright smiles, some might just not say anything at all. You just never know what's going on in anybody's life in any given type of day.
And then when they walk out and they've had the experience that you've been able to kind of create in the room, how is that different?
You can just see this glow and this light from everyone. There's conversations after class, questions, comments, whatever it might be, and it's definitely a recharge, or kind of like a great start to your day, midday, whatever time you come to practice.
That's awesome. And I love how you said, again, it's a practice. It's not a competitive sport.
Yes.
It's all about finding ways to be more in tune with yourself. So with that being said, stay tuned because after the break, we are going to dive into the practice of yoga.